Phil Cheatham, the 3D guy. I'm going to talk about a specific portion of the kinematic sequence. Earlier we talked about the full kinematic sequence. Now we're going to zone in on each joint. And that gives us two curves because the curves look at the segments. And so it's two segments per joint, like the pelvis and the rib cage span the core or the abdomen joint, if you like. So here we have, again, just to remind you, the kinematic sequence. The vertical axis is the rotation velocity or turning velocity. And the horizontal axis is the time through the swing. This is backswing. This section is downswing. And this section here is follow through. So let's look at what's happening as we go across in time. You see the red curve goes negative, which means it's going in backswing. And then it crosses this zero line here, which means it's transitioned from backswing to downswing. And now it starts to accelerate, which means the pelvis is turning faster. The pelvis is speeding up in a rotational manner. But it hits a peak and then it decelerates. The green one, you can see, crosses the zero line and transitions just a fraction of a second later than the pelvis. So what that does is that at the top of your backswing, you've got that spine rotation, and by the rib cage turning slightly later than the pelvis, you get a turn of the pelvis and you get some X-factor stretch or some spine rotational stretch going on, which loads the muscles and allows them to fire stronger into the downswing. And so we can see that going on here. If those two curves were on top of one another or reversed, we would know that they're not getting a powerful transition. In fact, they're throwing the shoulders, kind of like casting the shoulders. So that gives us some information. We can watch how long into the downswing that red curve sits on top of the green curve. That means the lower body is turning faster than the upper body, and the X factor or the separation, the coil, is growing, extending, getting loaded. And then, boom, it fires when we see them cross over one another there. And when it fires, or what I should say is when the shoulders fire, the shoulders turn, they pull on the pelvis, and that's what causes a deceleration of the lower body and an acceleration, transfer of energy to the rib cage or the upper body. And so the peaks are interesting. They should be sequential, and the green one should be higher than the red one. If the green one is not higher than the red one, then we didn't get any gain across the core or the lower body, the abdomen section. And so we need to look at what's going on there. It could be a physical screen. They might not be strong enough. It could, in fact, be they just don't know what they're doing. They're doing it incorrectly, and that's where the instructor comes in. So again, we see sequential. We want to see an increase in speed, and then they decelerate into impact. So that's the kinematic sequence for the pelvis and the rib cage.